Live and not ready. Truth. Well, I'll wait up and see if anybody joins us live. Uh, I think I'll be able to tell. So, last video we talked about Pandora, Greek mythology. I mentioned a little bit about Adam and Eve. Great Lakes Wellness is way ahead of the game here. He knows. He's got a key to that box too. Way ahead of me. Did anybody look up to see what Pandora means? Did anybody dig into the Greek mythology? I know that Scotty Boy was making notes. Maybe he did a little research. I did some more research too. So the theme was creation. Better not get too close to you. Creation and my part of it, and your part of it, more importantly, that inside of Pandora's box here, more symbolism, more symbology. Stack some books up there. And they need to be edited. Some of that stuff's going to go into the box. But inside the box are compartments. There's 7 billion of us that have crowded into this Earth here at this time. Why? What are they doing here? What's going on here? Why am I revisiting Pandora in the box? Into the 4th world, beginning of the 5th world. Looks like there's going to be some creating going on. Great Lakes is, as we mold the clay for what is to become. So these guys achieved world domination. They did it some time ago. Only the awake didn't even realize that. Who are these people that are awake? So we're on borrowed time. It's way past 2012. And then there was that thing, the Mandela effect. Suggested to be 2010. What was that about? Well, it's possible that among these people that this breakaway civilization that has something to do with, we'll call it the dark side, manipulated time, and that had to be created or corrected. So the Mandela effect, it was like a reset before the reset, that some things were corrected. Some things that were not going to be in the 5th world, I think, were removed from the records of the 4th world. One of the important ones for myself was a biblical passage that the lion laid down with the lamb, or grazed, or whatever it was. That's symbolically, to me, says that there'll be no more kings, there'll be no more royalties. The nobles will be gone. But the wolf will still be there. We'll have to keep the wolf from the door. We'll have to figure out a financial system. That's my interpretation only. That's my opinion as an observer. So, creation. So, a decade ago, I started my creative process on what I was going to do with this if I could have my way. I even came up with a method to distribute it. I had in mind a not-for-profit corporation, even had a name, GLL Inc., Gravity, Love, and Light, that these little satellites, there would be the main super hub of GLO, and then there'd be all these little satellites. And just like these guys, because once you let knowledge out of the box, you can't put it back in. What did these guys do? They compartmentalized everything. So everybody had a piece and nobody had the whole. So my thought at that time was that I could do that we could have the main hub developing technology and all the satellites building the components and assembling the technology, and nobody would have the whole picture. Maybe not even me. But that's where I was a decade ago, trying to figure out. And I was going to rule with a big stick. And that if anybody stepped out of line, that I would correct that behavior. Not going to happen. I just wanted to hide in the background, but anyhow, equality is the number one, but there's a lot to learn from history that repeats itself. So, oops, preparing for work. Open the damn jar. That's Anne Marie. Thanks, Anne Marie. Yeah, open the damn jar. Well, they'll leave then. They won't want anything to do with me anymore then. They'll say, damn jar is open, or box, whatever. And I will. I'm going to be forced to open the damn jar. I will. And maybe we'll get a few more people in before I open the damn jar, because nobody will actually. This is my madness. It's I'm nobody. It's all untested. It's all theory. So we'll see. So the emphasis is, the importance is that the reason I brought up revisiting the past and history's repeating itself is because it does, and we do. So this isn't going to be a new paradigm. We have options. We need to be aware. We can't go into this half-cooked, half-baked. We need to ground. We need to be acting, not reacting. We need to be creating. We are co-creators. We need to find balance. Anne Marie talks about balance all the time, being in our power. So this two big circles meets at 120 degrees. That leaves 1/3 of this in the center. That would be an excellent balance. While 2/3 of it, I'll suggest this is the sleepwalkers, the unmotivated, that are going to ride along. You know, we've all come to learn different lessons, and some of us are going to be creative and learners and such and so on. There's 12 houses in the zodiac. I represent the Aquarius. I'm not going to rule you. I'm going to suggest how we set this thing up. The other 11 houses all get a vote. Everybody gets careful with democracy, perhaps a republic. I want to know if Great Lakes wants to be part of the North American Tribal Republic, independently organized nation. We're going to tear down the president's wall. These are things that we have to actually think about regardless of this reset. And we can't know at this time what that reset is, but I think we'll have some advance warning of when that's going to actually happen, what it means, and that if we're guided and it's all meant to be, then we'll be all right. We'll be steered to be where we need to be. Where was I going with that? Oh, I was talking about nation building. Yeah, well, let's jump right ahead to nation building. Well, I was thinking that we have to merge, that as these Ponzi schemes fall apart and these dark guys who are currently responsible via our inactivity, our lack of creativity, our willingness to give them power, have created the world that we live in right now. We gave them our power and they did that. And right now, the weight of the world is on their shoulders. And it's wobbling. It's unstable. And it is what it is. We can't deny that. We can't ignore that. We need to take that into consideration as we move forward. We need to learn from the past, what didn't work. And Anne-Marie Uber at annemarieuber.com and has a channel on YouTube. Talks about how we need to take our power. Talks about how we need to put what's not working for us, each of us as individuals, should be pointing that stick at you, need to go out of our comfort zone, as I'm going out of my comfort zone doing these videos. So put what doesn't work for you behind you. The same goes on in the larger structure. What is good for thy is good for thee or thy, or however that goes. Whatever's good for me is good for you. Whatever's good for me is good for the greater community, especially if it is in a sharing, loving, caring community, which that needs to be part of our new paradigm here, that Great Lakes is on that as well, that we're all in this together, that when the box gets open, there's a small group awake now, and we're towing a line right now. To get there, we need to take these lies and we need to forgive these guys. The lie, and what's that leave is the belief. And what was left in the jar, in case you didn't do your research? Did you do it, Scotty boy? You got a section in this box too. Maybe something to do with comedy. I know you're on fire, Scotty boy. What was left in the jar and the lid was hope. Everything else escaped out. There's another bit of story about the tree of life and the tree of knowledge, and what all that represented. They could eat anything in the Garden of Eden, anything they wanted, and they were content, and they did nothing. So what was introduced to them was the tree of knowledge, and if they took from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, surely they would die. And when they did take from the tree, the first thing they did was they clothed themselves. They were ashamed. They were disobedient to their wonderful God. There was a time when we needed God, and we needed that. And I think that this fifth world, this next creation, we don't need to have a God over us. We need to honor the source that created all this. And that takes me back to the many wonderful lessons that the North American Indians learned and how they honored and respected. Now, I talk about these tribes. I'm not saying we go backwards in time to these tribal primitive living, excuse me, but there are people that will enjoy a primitive lifestyle, but there can be a tribe of high-techers. I mean, it's like we can all come together and find that balance, negotiate those terms, have this amazing technology. There's just no end. The potentials are completely unlimited. But we want to avoid the repeat. We have to learn from our lessons. And, some of us came here just to learn maybe the lessons of third density. And some of us came maybe to create. We can't really know that for sure either. So, let's see. Scotty boy, good day to you, Henry, he says. Oh, he wants Henry to tell about 101. Now, Scotty, I'm sure that you figured that out already. I created that prop, and then I went and researched the meaning of 101. So occasionally I am guided. So I don't know if I think I'll save this, but I don't know how well you guys can see this board. I think I might save this. I'm running a little late here. I've got some people coming to do some work. I don't think you can really see that very well. I probably put it up on the website, which I really haven't been utilizing. It's the Fibonacci series, if I'm saying that correctly. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21. 1 and 1 added equals 2, 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5. That's how that series works. That this is a series that was discovered apparently by Fibonacci, and they probably picked him because it was a name that nobody could pronounce. This same series, and I'm not a mathematician, don't claim to be, the same series works along with a thing called phi. Oh, I have a mark right here. Phi, which is 1.618033987, actually 8874, infinity. It works just like pi. It goes out forever. And when you compare these two, the Fibonacci series to the phi series, what you get is this, they call it converging and diverging. So these two meet back and forth, but never come to zero. They come so close, and then they separate slightly, and then so it's forever infinitely going outward and forever infinitely coming close, but never matching. So what is 28.09? Well, if you can see that this isn't actually supposed to be the sun, but if we were to think of the sun at the center of our solar system, that just like our Earth turns every 24 hours, our sun turns a complete revolution on its axis every 28 days. And just for fun, and not to be Earth xenophobic, I used 0.09 because, gee, would the sun have to turn exactly on an Earth day? No. So, one of my early discoveries, I guess you could say, was that if I took these numbers, I took 28.09 and I multiplied them by the Fibonacci series, 28.09, 56 point something. Excuse me. Cheat sheet. 56.18, 140. Oh, let's see, am I at 3? 84 point. I'll put these up on the website. 140. 8. 224. We finally get to one of interest. Well, actually, a couple. 224.72. Now, we'll talk about never a straight answer, NASA. NASA tells us that Venus orbital period is 224.701. Now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth in the series, as you can see, the seventh in the series is 13, which happens to be Earth. And in my calculations here, when I multiply this out, we're just taking 28.09 and multiplying it by this Fibonacci series number. We get 365.17, which is pretty darn close to what Earth is. It's 365.25. And then it starts to break down from there, but there's something here more than a coincidence. So what is this suggesting? This is suggesting that just as this has a relationship to phi in the Fibonacci series, so does, even though our planets aren't moving like this, they are moving in a manner that relates back to this system. In other words, this is an organized energy system that's more perfected, if you will. And this is an energy system that keeps our planets in motion. In other words, our sun turning at the center is not just holding the planets in place. It's actually, or it's working in conjunction with the planets in place and turning the whole thing at a specific rate. So the planets aren't moving exactly like this, but they're moving in a relationship to that. So this was part one, and if I total all of these numbers and then divide by the number of planets that I put in them, I come up to 92% accurate. And most people would say, oh, a mere coincidence. The scientist would probably say that. Mere coincidence. Interesting, but a mere coincidence. But now, the other thing that I discovered with some effort was that, and let me explain this thing here just a little bit for you. So there's a way to express phi and the Fibonacci series either by a sequence of squares, or you can do it with circles. And I'm not sure, let's see, put something behind that. You guys can make that out. There's a way to do this with numbers. And you can see here 1, 1, 2, 3. Oh, I'm sorry. 1, 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. And what you're doing here is you're just drawing a curve around to the corner of the boxes. So that's an expression of taking the Fibonacci series and turning it into phi. So this big graph up here represents, and it's the black lines here are all have to do with me setting up a model of phi. And then in here are actually 2 yellow rings that represent the inner orbit and the outer orbit of Mercury. This red ring represents the orbital path of Venus, which happens to be 99% circular. And then there's 2 green rings here that represent the Earth's orbital. And the reason there's 2 is because we have a little more deviation. Our orbital is a little more eccentric. In other words, it's not round, more egg-shaped, where Mercury's is one of the most extreme, which is like 80% of a circle, as opposed to Venus's 90 or 99%. So now these rings here that represent the planets, they don't actually sit in this plane at all. They're actually turned 90 degrees. So, but to visualize this, I put them on the graph like this, because it really doesn't matter if they're this way or that way. That's where they're going to fall. So, so this was an expression of orbital rate, and then we have this thing that we call axis tilt. So this guy who's wobbling, we're tilted at 23.5 degrees from the sun's equatorial plane and its pole. You know, it has a north and a south pole. It has to do with magnets. Anyhow, so, but what I'm showing in this diagram is that if I here at the center here, well, let's start back here. I placed Venus right on this ring here because it's got almost a perfectly circular orbit. So as I guide into the system, I used Venus because of its near perfect circular orbit. And then I calculated the Earth and Mercury using this as a guide into the system, a thread. So Venus drove the system. I could have used Jupiter as well because Jupiter's orbit is pretty round as well. And you can do that. You're still going to come up with a very close approximation to the same thing. So now, from the center here, I drew a line out that meets the ring, the 2 rings that represent the inner and the outer orbit, perihelion and aphelon of Earth. And those, where this meets, the phi here is what I call a phi ideal, but this is where this meets it. And I could put it over here, would have been negative 23 to 26, negative 23 to negative 26. Here it would have been, you know, we would have been talking off of 180. But the point is that where this meets this ring, it approximates the axis tilt. So in a dynamical system, what's that? It's a system where there's variables. This is a great model. This would be a good model. Kind of going on the fly here a little bit. So the Earth is here. Oh, and it's tipped at its 23.5 degrees here. You gotta remember that this is turned up. Okay, so now had the Earth in this is representing its orbital. If that Earth would have been closer to this point right here, as it moved closer, We've got it tipped. As it moved closer out, it would have been more precise to the axis of the sun. In other words, we're missing a planet. We have a badly damaged solar system from the past history that has been kept from us. And what I'm suggesting is that the sun and its gravitational system, a dynamical system, one parameter changes, it can change the rest of all the planets. In other words, that missing planet between Mars and Jupiter was probably a sizable planet. Or possibly when or if they drug the moon in, and it's possible that the satellite that was there was possibly Mercury, and they stationed Mercury in a new orbit here, because things are messed up here. They should be every other is where that should be working, and it's not. We'll see that in nature if we looked at it. That when those changes were made, however these changes were made, a missing planet, relocated planets, that this dynamical system rebalanced itself. And that's what caused these axis tilts. And Mercury is being pulled. This Mercury, Ceres, and Pluto, 3 planets are being, the solar plane is like a line that would go through here, and Mercury pops above it and below it, every orbit. So what's dragging it? I'm pretty sure that it's our moon. Can't prove that, and I have a theory. But what I'm suggesting is that just as those orbital rates are in a pattern that matches phi in the Fibonacci series, they're close. They've approximated. They're in that motion together. That the same is true of the axis tilt. And when I run the numbers on that, again, I come up with about 92% accuracy. So similar accuracies between the two does not seem to be a coincidence. It seems to be a system that I stumbled upon, if you will, and realized that the reason that I turned my interest was solely the subatomic particle. I turned my interest to the planets because I needed something that wasn't moving at 2 to 20 gigahertz. In other words, there's super fast motion at the subatomic level. But if it's a fractal system, we could look to the planets for guidance. And I found some of the stuff I needed to. So, let's see. I can see it. Fine. Good. Thank you, Scotty boy. Any questions, anybody? Scotty? I know you're on fire, brother. You know, that report's due soon. Anne-Marie told me the other day. Oh, and I should mention that for members of Anne-Marie's Patreon, those who contribute to her Patreon account, we had a nice little meeting, kind of just get you know you meeting with Kathy, myself, and Anne-Marie. And I believe we scheduled a meeting too. I'm wondering if I marked it in my calendar for March. Apparently, I don't recall the date, but for those of you that support Anne-Marie at Patreon, that there'll be Zoom meetings, and as long as I'm available, I'll be attending. We had, like I said, Kathy and Anne-Marie and myself, and you know, before that crowd gets any bigger, if you wanted to do some things related to me or to Kat, don't want to be stealing Anne-Marie's time. Her time is very valuable. In in her Pandora's box is she's creating reality for future generations. Pretty sure of that. I'm pretty sure of it. So, well, I put Scotty to sleep. All right, I'm going to call it a wrap. And please, questions and comments. We're all in this together. Guidance is welcome. Have a good rest of the day, okay? See you soon. Yeah, twice I'll see you soon.